Well, at Hilton Head Christian Academy, we feel that if we are designing something for the next 20, 30 years, we need to be definitely looking ahead and not looking behind. And maybe even going into territory that might seem uncomfortable at first, but really is what our children really need.
Our designs really free kids to be more successful. It's all about understanding, teaching, learning, and the spaces that support that. Rather than a fear about hanging on to doing things the way they're doing with what we call bells and cells, a series of cell-like classrooms and corridors, the school has been very open to saying, how can we do better? In fact, how can we be a global exemplar? How can we change and grow and really support our kids for the future rather than design for what we're comfortable with now?
So we are now at the Academy of the Holy Names in Tampa, a 100-year-old school that decided to change its education model. This used to be a school that had typical classrooms and corridors, and this building, in fact, was designed in that manner. And as you can see, it's been completely transformed. So while Hilton Head Christian Academy may not look exactly like this, it's an example of what can happen with a Christian school when they decide to push the boundaries of innovation. Okay, you can see this is a very technology-rich environment, but at the same time it's a very social place where students can work independently, they can work in small groups, they can work in fairly large groups, and the teacher circulates around the room giving assistance as needed.
It's working beautifully for our kids. First of all, they love the space, and the teachers have embraced it as well.
It's a sense of pride in what they're doing, and I feel like it kind of takes, especially in the middle school age, it kind of takes away that us versus them. We work together, and being a mentor rather than an authority figure, I think that it's a much more comfortable atmosphere so that the kids can take risks and not feel like they're going to fail. We're there to support them the whole way. We're there to make the mistakes with them, to show them that that's okay because we're trying something new.
If you look at research on the brain, if there are just a few really critical things about learning, one is to feel safe, another is to have a stimulus-rich environment.
So if you look behind me, you see what might look like a library, but really what it is it's decentralized. It's not a central library in the traditional sense, so students can come, they can get access to these resources, but it's also a common space.
Complementary kinds of acoustical treatments, complementary kinds of lighting makes it more stimulus-rich, and thus that's the why that we do that to improve learning.
Now, traditionally people might think in a space like this there'd be a lot of noise and distraction, but you can see a lot of acoustic treatments. So even though we don't have walls, you can have different groups of students, some here in the more casual area, and then there's what we call the cave space where students can sit in a campfire type arrangement, and then we have a whole other section on the other end. So you can have 2 or 3 teachers here at the same time, and there's no acoustic problem because for the most part, students are doing the work, teachers aren't lecturing. So now we have a series of learning studios with a central common space that students can break out into, so that when they are again moving from a direct instruction model, which happens in the sort of classroom type space, to a student-directed model, then all of these doors can open up. The key is that once the direct instruction is over in that space, the students can spill out into this common space. And in the common space, you can see some high chairs and as well as low tables. The reason is at the high chairs, teachers can actually just stand next to a student and give them help as needed and then move on.
We have a digital media commons. It's a bit more connection to the rest of the world and technology. A teacher collaboration room, which is right open to the learning commons with a learning porch here and a learning porch here. And now we've added this active critique suite and makerspace and STEM focus, which is really getting at that complex problem solving and that cycle of creating in a prototyping lab, for example, in a makerspace, critiquing, and also the research involved in a digital media space.
So if you look at this space here to my right, this is the teacher workroom, and what we do is we give teachers a professional place to work from, and so rather than owning their own classrooms, They own the whole learning community, and then they have their own professional workspace. And the great thing with this is that teachers now get to work with each other. So they can design interdisciplinary courses, for example, which they might not have been able to do had they been trapped in their own classrooms.
So when we started out, we were really afraid that the kids would not be able to work in an open environment. We were worried about the kids that feel like they get distracted easily. We were worried about kids that just could not stay on task, that didn't have the self-control to stay on task. And what we have found was the more we pulled back, the more they came together. We have just been, every single day, just thrilled. We walk through here and I walk in and my lights turn on by themselves, and every morning I just feel that wah, because I walk into my lab and it's just such a different feeling, and the kids are really, really rising to the occasion.
The places that students occupy tells a lot about what we think education should be all about. And so what we try to do is to sort of walk the walk and not just talk the talk. Tell students that we care about them and give them spaces that actually show them that we care about them, as opposed to sticking them in classrooms and then telling them we care about them.